Good evening, and to those where it's night may be a good one. Today our meeting begins with an answer to a question. One of the participants in the chat asked why did the sect founder Václav, who created a fairy tale about a contract with higher powers, last so long? The story is practically an anecdote. In 2014, the Pope announced that all continental countries and states were being dissolved. The Roman law no longer applied on continental territories, and that he was relinquishing all his powers as the vicar of God, взята on earth. He renews our responsibility and told the representatives of the first administrative pyramid of power to figure things out on their own, under their own responsibility. He ran off to seek protection from Lucifer and even signed an agreement in Cuba with your head of the Russian Orthodox Church, Patriarch Kirill, declaring that from the moment the Roman Catholic Church would recognize Lucifer as God and worship him. In honor of this, a choir in the Vatican even performed a mass in praise of Lucifer. We had several disquisitions on this matter at the time, so there's nothing new here. But back then, we didn't discuss the consequences of these events, as it wasn't the right time. The fruit wasn't ripe yet. The entire continental territory of the planet turned into ownerless property, where monkeys, hippos, giraffes, and some natives, that's you, roam. Yesterday I explained how an illusory system of state power was maintained in Russia using admiralty law after the Russian Federation was registered on the islands. The territories of the former USSR, since the Russian Federation became its colonies, and the Russian Federation with its colonies became a colony of the USA. We covered this in our previous meeting. If the Russian Federation has legal status based on maritime and admiralty law, then the so-called colony now called Russia, along with the territory of the USSR, to which it lays claim, remains legally unregistered and cannot obtain any legal status. How is that? Very simply, there is no legal entity that can do this. The Pope, who was the vicar of Satan on earth, renounces powers, and there is no one to grant any indulgence of authority, since power is still recognized as coming from God. Rome alone ceased to exist. That's why the Pope said, figure it out yourselves under your own responsibility. I'm no longer playing these games. This is the reason why, although there are no countries or states, everyone continues to play the game of states, like in Monopoly or something similar. By this decade, corporations and transitional corporations had their plans to take over all the planet's resources. Back in 2015, 16, 17, I tried to correct the situation. As a result, I even granted the rights and powers of the sovereign of illusion to your president Vladimir Putin. In other words, tools were given that would allow the creation of some kind of legal social entity in the form of the state with some status and a model of social structure. You probably remember when the rights of the sovereign of illusion were granted to Vladimir Putin after the New Year. There's even a video on this topic. But what happened? As always, they wanted the best, but things turned out as they always do. Greed ruined them, and they couldn't do anything themselves or let Putin do anything. The so-called former Soviet nomenclature and power, of course, couldn't agree on implementing this plan. Everyone was solely chasing money and power. And what did they get? Well, they have money, power that will disappear in an instant, and they'll be left, like in the tale of the golden fish, with nothing. I explained Stalin's cunning to you. He managed to unite the so-called whites and reds under the banner of the USSR. Now the remaining whites have decided to return to old models of Rus under the leadership of its Tsar father. They only needed to solve two issues: remove the so-called Soviet party nomenclatura and of course appoint the head of the newly formed state, its Tsar father. So everyone rushed to create concepts and ideas of how the states will function. They deal with the first issue successfully. As you can see, the nomenclature is being removed without much difficulty. But what about the second issue? Its Tsar father is the anointed of God. Where will they get a god? Lucifer's also gone. Fallen angels don't have such powers. Putin isn't suitable. He was proclaimed by some Velas. Who knows who that is, and he's from the opposing camp from some unknown god. Of course, they think Putin can replace the Pope, can't anoint the chosen Tsar father and put him on the throne. And besides, they're not sure what to do with Putin. He's not someone you can just push aside. And here comes the sect, the sectarian Maslov, even with the title of a professor. A suitable candidate, you can push him wherever you want and he'll go. If not, you can send him to Siberia or imprison him if he disobeys. And so, in this world of fairy tales, a story was created about a contract with higher powers. The Illuminati aren't fools either. They immediately figured out how to turn this in their advantage. Look, the Russians have signed a contract with some god or higher powers, and now they present themselves as the chosen people, where this there who knows what or X is a criminal recognized by all countries destroying the planet as the climate Cerberus, leading into apocalypse. What did I tell you during the last meeting? They will make you outcasts in the eyes of the entire world, those who want to conquer it. That's why they wanted to pull off the scheme of enthroning a Tsar father in Russia, of course chosen by them, so that this Maslov, as a representative of the divine higher powers, would anoint him, give him all regalia of power. But as usual in the world of illusion, the scheme didn't work. They wanted the best, but it turned out as always. Returning to our topic. The announcement has been made, the Prosecutor's speech. This means that the case for prosections has been concluded, and the judicial process has officially begun. However, this requires a true explanation, which now falls under my responsibility, so let's delve into it. For several years now, during our meetings, I've been hinting that in this story, Gabriel is a prosecutor, and for your information, I am your lawyer, your defender. Now Gabriel has completed his work and have been tasked with informing you about it. Although this is particularly a mission impossible. Why? Because most of you are newcomers and lack the information that has been provided over the last 10 years. The most active participants have started studying the previous materials which have been shared with them by those who have been observers for many years. However, many of them have been left with numerous questions and some confusion, simply because these veterans were unable to explain the basics, what they had been doing here for several years, and that they were also witnesses to the investigation and the process of compiling a case regarding the committed crimes. The information gathered in this case often changed, with new data being introduced while false testimony was discarded, and only the truthful information was retained. It's clear to everyone that each individual tries to spin the things to their advantage, offering testimony that benefits them. Some lie, others refuse to testify altogether, just like any case involving criminal activity. There was even one of our meetings presented in a chat that lasted about 12 hours, during which I provided information. At that time, the Zone X was being constructed by people themselves. You know how that ended. Now I'm tasked with something similar, but this time I'm practically doing it alone. That's why I don't have time to engage with you for 5, 6 or 12 hours with breaks so you can rest. If I was spending all this time with you, who would be doing all the work? But now, despite the lack of time, I must familiarize you with the materials of the completed case, including the prosecutor's speech of accusation. This means that the contents are now fixed and correspond to the truth. I want to draw the attention of the newcomers, all the materials from previous meetings that you are familiarizing yourselves with a part of the investigation for the court case. Of course, there are many contradictions which I had to correct to align everything with the truth. This is a natural process when preparing such a case for trial. Now the information you are receiving from the case corresponds to the truth. The work is done. If anyone can't understand this, that's not my fault. My job was to inform you of what you didn't know, and your colleagues didn't warn you about this. To start addressing the prosecutor's accusation, we need to approach it from a distance. As they say, you become like those with whom you associate, and so I've picked up quite a bit myself. I overheard a conversation between two young people once. A girl of about 13-14 years old, wearing a miniskirt with lace underwear visible, and a boy. The girl, with a very serious expression on her face, said to the boy, "What are you talking to me about love for?" What is love? It's just two fools trying to make a third fool. From this point we start discussing what you refer to as the universe. This will even touch upon my own birth. Once upon a time there was a single field, an energy field, very complex, very intelligent, but it indicated that something had to be done. But as the girl said, one cannot do anything alone. And so there was a division into two oppositely polarized fields, plus and minus, which science refers to as the Big Bang, which suppose gave rise to the universe. As a result of this, the third was born, what you can call the universe. I was the first, the one who conducted the entire process of this birth, and that is why I am the Alpha and the Omega, life and death. I exist on both sides of the parents of the third, a living being and organism that you, based on information from your scientific minds, call the universe. Everything you perceive in the three-dimensional format, plants, stars, the sun, pulsars, black and white holes, quasars and so on are parts of the organ of this living organism. Intelligent cells performing their functions so that this organism can exist. Not as something that are inanimate, but as a living intelligent being. And with this living organism, by chance you also appeared. What you consider inanimate, a bunch of chemical eliminates, is in fact living organs, parts of this living being which you call the universe. These organs resist with my energy field, and I sustain their life existence and vitality with my energy. On both sides of this parents, in one polarity or the other plus and minus, I am with 5th, 6th, 10th, 25th or 15th force, and your universe, the living organism, is what is called life. It sustains itself generating my energy, which is referred to as the energy of life. For your information, your scientific minds have already begun to speak of the so-called fifth force as they delve into quantum science. Your ordinary physics, mathematics and the rest study the three-dimensional format of avatars. Quantum physics and engineering have penetrated the realm from which you avatars originated. However, we won't be discussing the universe as a living organism, but rather you. That is the state represented by the three-dimensional format and its illusion. There are no theories, hypotheses, or speculations here. It simply is what it is. Today an announcement was made about something many already knew, that the universe is a living organism long before your human civilization was even conceived. The announcement featured a video by the well-known Jewish figure Leitman, who is trying to explain that we have taken the wrong path, chosen the wrong way. He emphasized that even what is written in the Bible, particularly in the Old Testament, should not be taken literally. For example, the statement that God created man in his image and likeness does not mean three-dimensional form, regardless of whether it refers to a state created by the Creator or illusion of that state. He attempts to explain that your creators, God, Satan, and Lucifer, the fallen angels and demons, do not possess a three-dimensional form, nor do they have avatars. They are two-dimensional energy beings. The three-dimensional form or the accusation of an avatar, whether an illusion or the real state created by the Creator, is a result, a product of the state in which a particular energy living or non-living entity exists. He also tries to demonstrate that your scientific minds are searching for something that was never lost, something that has long been known, and that everything here in illusion has a spectacle. Often in the announcements I include speeches from the well-known scientist Chernigovskaya, where she explicitly states that this world of illusion has gone off the trails. She highlights that there are many unanswered questions about how all of this could have come about, and understandably so, because she does not know or accept the truth as it is. The last video in the announcement is titled "The Battle Between Light and Darkness is Reaching Its Climax", presented by the blogger Resident TV, featuring narratives of conflict between the darkness and light, good and evil, and so on. This is what you face every day in your reality. However, you should know that none of this is real. There is no battle between light and darkness, nor does such a thing as good and evil exist. If it's almost impossible to define a battle between light and darkness, good and evil are defends everyone. Good and evil are merely control algorithms created by Lucifer when he formed this illusion. They are the ethereal engine that drives the so-called wheel of samsara. Good and evil do not exist in reality. They only function as algorithms with this closed system of the wheel. Let's start with how you perceive good, and the same applies to evil. The perception of good and evil relates specifically to you, not to the environment in which you live. You perceive good as something associated with you and those like you, and even then, not always. You don't always treat those like you with godness. After all, you wage wars, kill one another. Even during peacetime, you beat and humiliate each other, and you consider this evil when directed at you or those like you. When you give something to a poor person, donate, or do some other act, you think you've done good. You define good by how you behave according to set rules, and evil as actions by those like you who do not follow these rules. And for your information, these processes of good and evil are governed by your ego. And this concerns only you, humans, not even your pets and your love for them, or how you feed them. Consider how you treat these loyal pets, such as horses, dogs, not to mention cats. For your own pleasure, you conduct genetic experiments on them, cut off dogtails, groom them, and so on, turning them into freaks. For your pleasure, you have even altered their genetic appearance. This is considered science, an improvement. You've ripped them out of their natural environment. And is that good? How does this look from the perspective of the dog, horses, and cats, living and even intelligent creatures? You're aware that cats, horses, and dogs possess intelligence. Whereas your gut is towards the surrounding environment and nature, which you have destroyed to satisfy your ego, even towards the ocean, the world ocean, which is an intelligent, highly intellectual living being, and yet you're killing it. How is that possible? Where is the good in that? From their perspective, it is already evil. From your perspective, it is good. When natural disasters destroy your homes and telecommunication is response to your actions, is that evil? From your perspective, yes. But from the perspective of the entire environment, it is good because it saves the planet from good, kind, fluffy beings like you. Thus, what you call good and evil concerns only you and your interactions with one another. It is a closed cycle that affects no one else. These are algorithms governing your relationships with those like you, what you can recognize as good from your perspective and evil from others like you, and these are controlled by your ego. And your ego is controlled by a system of governance. Who gets more good or more evil depends on the plot, the script, and the role you play in this world. Step back and look at the natural environment. There's harmony there. No one harms anyone. All beings interact without any manifestations of good or evil. We have discussed what this environment is. Air, water, the earth, both above or below ground. What seems like evil to you is in fact the environment defending itself from you, those who are destroying everything to fulfill your needs. And now, with the help of your noble science, you have even turned the environment into a tool for destroying these like you. The air is polluted, the water is contaminated, and the land is poisoned. You have taken everything to such an extreme that you can no longer live in this environment. Therefore there is no good or evil, no battle between light and darkness. There never was and never will be. All of it is within you, within your avatars, as algorithms controlled by your ego. How many times have I told you? Rid yourself of your ego and the algorithms of good and evil will stop working because there will be no one to control them. Then harmony will come, leading to creation and improvement. Haven't I said this to you? I repeated it 1,000 times or more. Good and evil are you yourselves, in relation to yourself and those like you. That's why you have the saying, without good there is no evil and without evil there is no good. You cannot know good without knowing evil and vice versa. As for the environment, no matter where you live, water, air, earth, Mars, or even another galaxy, you have always been evil. Nowhere else but within you does in the process of transitioning from good to evil and back exist. It's always within you. And until you rid yourselves of your ego, you will not escape this closed loop of the wheel of samsara. Your good will always turn into evil against the environment, and the environment's response will always seem evil to you. So we will end our meeting here today. The information presented is for your reflection, and it is the key to the door out of the wheel of samsara. Let me answer the question about the food chain. The food chain is an illusion. In the illusion no one exists, neither you nor I, nor those you feed on. Even our meeting is a product of illusion, a state which you and I exist, but the state is controlled by me, not the control system. You won't get this information from it. Any more questions? If not, see you on Sunday. Sovereign of the universe, the first, Velas.